Guys, welcome back to Kind of Hot, Kind of Healthy. If you are new here, welcome. If you're joining us today for our interview, we are so excited to have you. Before we jump into that, we just like to chit chat a little bit. We want to let you know a little bit about ourselves if this is your first time listening. And if you've been a long time listener, right? If you've been listening for over a year, you guys know what the drill is. We are yappers till we die. But I am Allie. I am a nutrition and health coach, and my area of expertise, I will call it, I am the queen of making fat loss simple, right? We are anti-overwhelm. And I bullied my co-host Madison, government name here,
Oh,
into starting this podcast with me because we are like two peas in a pod. And although we have not a lot of differences, I would say, but we're different in a lot of ways, and we're also so similar in the same ways that it just fucking works, you guys.
no, I agree. And if you didn't know this, because you're listening to maybe on Spotify or Apple
Yes.
Podcasts, we are also on YouTube, so you can watch us. And I guarantee you, it's like 100 times funnier on
Yeah,
YouTube.
it's an experience.
And we are almost at, I bet you by the time this podcast airs, because our guest interviews are about like 2 to 3 months from when we record them,
Yeah.
when they air. I bet by the time this airs, we will have hit our goal of 100 subscribers. We are at 89 right now. Um,
Yes.
so, finger snaps for that. But I am Maddie Martinez. I do not go by Madison. So do not message me or slide in my DMs calling me Madison. I will not respond. I'm kidding, but not really. It's Maddie with a Y, not naive. And I coach women to get lean and strong. So I take you guys from your HIIT workouts, from your discombobulated Pinterest workouts, from your group exercise class where they are pushing you to sweat and to get on top of the scoreboard, and kind of you're eating in this way of like, I'm watching my nutrition. That goes out the window. We're going to actually make effective workouts and effective nutrition changes to get you lean and strong. So I am your lean and strong coach.
We love it. We are just queens at what we do. Let's just be honest there for a second,
For
right? Like,
real.
own that shit. Um, So before we dive into the interview, we just like a little chit chat. We like a little catch up, you guys. There are show notes. If you are not here for the yapping, click the fucking show notes and move ahead. But we are going to chit chat for a little bit. And we have really good questions. We have a really great topic coming for you guys about like finances. And honestly, anybody will benefit from this. This is going to be a
Mhm.
really great episode. And don't worry, it's not going to be like boring and like broy, like, those finance guys on TikTok. Like it's
Oh,
that's not us.
can't,
That's not us,
can't.
girls. We are just here to bring you some information to empower you, okay? Because
Agreed.
living your best life is being empowered in all areas.
Agreed. And with that thought, I need to grab a pillow because there is a bar digging into my back. 1 second.
Hold on. Okay, Maddie is situated. She is sitting on a pillow. She is comfortable.
She is easy breezy and beautiful cover girl.
Easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. Yes, she is. So obviously this is coming out in a little bit, but we're still going to talk about it anyways because I literally can't stop talking about it, and we're going to have to do a full recap with an episode after you've seen it. But I saw Wicked last night, you guys. Oh my God. Oh my God. Crying, full tears, full body chills. Oh my God. I could literally cry talking about it. Like, I can't stop talking about it. It's my hyperfixation.
Wow.
I've been dying for it to come out. And oh
Uh,
my God. Oh my God. It was everything.
I can't wait to see it on Saturday. I'm
It's
excited.
so, ugh, you'll love it. And even if you've never, like, there are a lot of people like my fiance James never saw the musical on Broadway, didn't know the lore, nothing. Um he went into it and kind of like didn't really know what to expect, didn't really get the vibe. He's like, meh, he's like being annoying. And halfway through it, he keeps like nudging me and he's like, and I'm like, I know,
That
girl, I
good?
know. The way they shoot it, and like none of it is like AI. Like they planted over like a million tulips. The sets are incredible. Like it's
Wow.
really just the art of it is so beautiful, and the acting and the singing, and oh my God. And especially like if you are a fan of the musical, it is just to see it come to life like on screen. Just, oh my God, it's amazing. And there's so many little Easter eggs, and just like, I can't wait to watch it again because I will be seeing it in less than 7 days again. I have to go with my sister because I need to. It's one of those films where like you watch it again and you pick out other little things and you
Mm.
appreciate the subtleties and the looks. Like, oh, your
That's
heart.
that's exactly how I feel about Harry Potter.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, I love Harry Potter.
The
Yeah.
lore.
The lore behind it. And it's just been so talked about for so long. And thankfully, they already filmed the second act. So, like, they filmed it all together. Um, so I think they're releasing it in like next year this time. So
Mm,
that's, I mean, that's not terrible because usually it's like you got to wait another 2 years for them to film and this whole bullshit. But they've already filmed. So it's like, all right, it's not going to be that long.
mhm.
So
I'm
that will be
excited.
my hyperfixation. And don't worry, my Spotify Wrapped is all of a sudden just gonna be like the Wicked soundtrack. Like everything is just going to take over. Whatever I was listening to, no more.
Spotify was like, "You were listening to this, but then you spent 10,000 hours listening to that, so I guess we don't want that."
Literally,
Do
literally.
do you wanna know what my music
Yes.
hyperfixation is right now?
Yes.
Okay, so you know how we, like, make fun of each other and call each other, like, boomers in different
Of
aspects?
course. Of
I
course.
have reached a new level.
Okay.
I have did I send you who it was? I can't remember. But it
Is it the girl that you
the
were telling me
singer?
about
The
in
singer?
Denver that you wanted to see in Denver?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I
Okay. Sad.
it is like jazz, like night it's called transatlantic accent. That's the sound of it.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you wanna know what that looks like, literally go on TikTok, you'll find it. Her name is Stella Cole. I'll tag her. I'll put it in the show notes, her TikTok so you can hear her. I don't know what it is about the transatlantic accent singing. It's like 1950s
Yeah.
jazz. It itches a part of my
Mm.
brain. I love my Spotify now is like jazz Christmas, like jazz radio. Every
Jazz is great. Jazz is
I
great.
I'm obsessed. I'm so
Yeah.
sad I can't see her in Denver, and of course, like, she's going on a world tour. She's like, "Next ticket's France." I'm like, "Damn it." So, we'll just have to wait till my European era comes up, hopefully soon.
My
But
world tour.
literally. But that is my hyperfixation right now.
I
Love
love it.
it.
Love
Love
it.
it. Mhm.
I love when I'm like working, and I need to be like really focused in on what I'm
Mhm.
doing, and I just have to put on like coffee house jazz music. And it just like
Yes.
instantly you're just like you're into it. There's no lyrics, so you're not getting like
Yeah,
distracted. You're just
exactly.
put into where you need
Uh-huh.
to be. And because a lot of the times I will listen to like music with like lyrics, right? But sometimes I'm like, I need to like lock in. So I just jazz.
Yes.
I love it. Oh, it's so
And
good.
I was laughing with my mom because, like, you know how people say, like, they, like, meet their spouses at, like, where you, like,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
frequent,
yeah.
like, "Oh, yeah, this guy I'm dating, he's just 80 because I met him at a jazz bar."
I think
Uh,
like I think it's more popular than like you're thinking. Like I don't think you need to like boomerify yourself. Like I think jazz is like everybody loves it. Like you're telling me you don't like jazz. Like please go off in the
true.
are there people listening that don't like it because are you insane? Like it's just calming, it's good, you're vibing like
Yes, I really wanna I found, a place how far? In the 30-minute range-ish, somewhere around here, um, in Pittsburgh somewhere, and they have, like, actual live performers come in, it's like a coffee shop, and I'm like,
yes.
"Let me go." I'm, like,
Go.
trying to find. It's hard. I'm like, "How do you find" because, like, you can find a coffee shop that has a rotation of people coming in, but then I'm like,
Oh.
"Is" I don't know any of them, so then I'm looking up every single band, I'm like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Can't you just put, like, rock?" Or like like, I need to
Oh,
know.
you don't know what genre it is.
Well, because any coffee place could have, like,
Oh,
you know
okay. I thought it was just like rotating like jazz musicians, but it's
oh,
okay.
it's
Okay.
just
Yeah. I was
they
like, why don't you just go?
right, that wouldn't that be easier to
Yeah, that
find
would be
something
really
like
easy. Honestly,
yeah,
that's
no,
the
it's
vibe.
not
I don't
like
want to
that.
listen to like fucking rock at the coffee shop.
No.
I'm here to
No.
romanticize my life. Okay. This is a Hallmark movie, and I'm a
Uh-huh.
business girl CEO, and I'm drinking my coffee, and I'm on my computer, and I'm going to have a meet cute with a cute barista boy or the jazz player. Like, that's what I want.
100%. So that
That's the
is
vibe.
that's my hyperfixation right now.
Love
I
it.
found, yeah, a group called the Pen Up Players, and then I found another girl who does like 1940, 1950s, like that era of music, but it's all in French. And it sound I know. I was like,
So
where are you?
iconic.
I know. She just played somewhere recently, and I'm like, when's the next show?
Yeah, just stalking her Instagram.
Tell me when.
Literally. Oh my God. That just, I love, like, I don't get people that don't like music. Like, some people are just,
Mm,
I'm like, I just love it. Like, and I glob on to something. And when I glob on, it's like, I listen to that song 10 times in a row. You want to go for an
yeah.
11th? I am here for it. And
Yeah.
not a lot of people vibe with that, but like, I was with my sister driving somewhere, and I go, can we listen to that again? She goes, of course. And I go, sorry, I just like to do this sometimes. And she's like, I know. And it's cool. And I'm like, thanks. It just like
Well,
itches the brain. I'm like, oh, I love it.
I agree, but I also have some bad news for you.
Oh,
So I took, you know how you and Lacey were yelling at me, and this will have come out by now, but the interview with
yeah.
Lacey,
Yeah.
that came out, they were like, you need to listen to Taylor Swift's new album. I tried. I
Good. You
got,
tried. You
I
tried.
got through, I don't know, 3 or 4 songs, and I've come to the conclusion I am not listening to music for lyrics. I listen to
Oh,
music for the vocalist. So I really love vocals. I don't like lyrics that much.
are you saying you don't think she's a good singer?
I listen
Because
to
this is where we're
music,
going to have to throw hands.
and Lacey would agree with me. Taylor Swift's not a vocalist. She's a lyrist. She is very good with her lyrics. Lacey would agree. She literally has told me that.
ID Gaff. What are you talking about?
Are you trying to tell me Taylor Swift's on the same vocal range as Ariana Grande?
Okay, first of all, Ariana, who is this Ariana business?
Okay, Ariana
Like,
Grande.
on Vanderpump, like Tom Schwartz would always be like,
Oh, that whole
It's
thing.
like, what are you talking about? It's Ariana. Jen is in the waiting room, so we have like a couple of minutes, but I I literally disagree with this whole nonsense. Do I think she is like Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo, Jennifer Hudson? No. But I do think her voice is fucking incredible. Like,
I mean, it's good, but I need chills. I need
oh
to
my
feel like
God.
I
It's always the
sorry.
bitches that can't sing that attack the wonderful women that can.
I'm not attacking her. I listen for the
I'm
vocals.
feeling triggered. I
You
cannot
are.
believe this. You could go after her lyrics and I would be like, yeah, sometimes they're really fucking cheesy. But like draw the cat eye sharp enough to kill a man. Like, yeah, that's pretty
Okay.
cheesy. That's pretty cheesy. But it speaks to me. But to say she's never
Good.
good, oh my God, I can't with you right
She's
now.
she's a good singer, but she's not I like vocals.
Guys, go
Vocals.
off in the comments. Okay. Are we team Allie or are we team Maddie?
And
Let
we're
us know
deciding
because
between if Taylor Swift is a vocalist or a lyrist, right? You're
I
saying
think
she's a
she's
vocal.
both. I think she's both. I think
Nope,
she's
she's
both.
a lyrist.
Bye, bitch. I think
Lyrist.
she's both. I cannot believe this slander.
And
This is
that's where the
a
podcast
smear
officially ends.
campaign. Yeah, right. So this will unfortunately be our last episode.
We end here. Jen, tell her to go.
Bye. Delete. Oh my God.
Okay, let's let her in.
All right. So we're gonna jump into the interview, you guys. That is like a little bit of a taste of the madness that you get here. But
Yes.
we're gonna talk to Jen. Super excited for this, and we'll see you guys in the interview.
So, welcome, Jen. We are super excited to have you. And for the listeners, this is Lindsay's sister. So, we like to keep it in the fam and bring people on. But Jen is a finance coach, and we really wanted to add more things to the podcast on, of course, supporting women, helping women, but financial literacy. Wow, I can't speak. Financial literacy, and focusing on your finances. Every woman. Wow, wow. I don't have words today. Every woman should do. I need to slow down. Sorry. So, Jen, tell us a little bit about like what kind of coach you actually are, how you got into finances, like the whole gambit.
Yeah. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I love the conversation around money, which is obviously why I thrive being a financial coach. And I do love that term a little bit more than like financial advisor, financial planner, because it just like those feel stuffy and like that 60-year-old white bald guy telling you like not spend money on a latte and don't go get the avocado toast. Like that's such like a huge part of my role is like making people feel just like so comfortable and at peace with what their money is doing, but then also giving them the confidence to have real conversations around money, but then also invest and also save and know where to do it and how to do it. So it's like making that conversation a lot more fun and easy. And yeah, so I started my firm almost 7 years ago, broke off from like the corporate financial world and was like, I need to do it my way and let's see how it goes. So it's been amazing working one-on-one with clients and just helping them feel really, really satisfied with their money. And it is financial health too, which I think relates to what you guys talk about every single day, like mental health, emotional health, physical health, like our finances affect all of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love how you go right to the avocado toast of it all because Maddie and I were talking about it when we were coming up with questions for you. I was like, it is such like this overstated rhetoric of like people being like millennials can't buy houses because they're getting avocado toast and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, like that's just so silly. It's crazy. So I love that you referenced that. And then also, you're so right. When we were kind of talking about what we want to discuss with you, if we're looking at it from a health standpoint, understanding your finances and being empowered and making smart decisions is a lot like making decisions with your health. And a lot of the times people get really overwhelmed and they don't know where to start. So we want this to be an episode where people have a starting off point and they feel really confident with it. And I love how you phrased it like financial coach so that you're helping somebody versus advisor and just somebody listening to you blindly.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to like what you guys do, right? Coaching clients one-on-one. Like we live in such a fast-paced world where it's like I go to work and then I have to go to the gym and then I'm grocery shopping and like okay, like when are we actually making time to like sit down and look at our finances? And that's kind of the the gap that I felt was missing when I was working corporate. It was, hey, you have 800 clients and you're meeting with them once a year, and you're hoping that after you give them the advice, they're just going to go do it. And
Mm,
that's just not true for most of us. We need that accountability. We need someone holding us to like, the goals that we say we want for ourselves. Like just having a space to be able to talk about it sometimes, like I was talking with another advisor and I was like, sometimes my meetings are like really sexy and fun. And we're talking about like all these like great things we're going to do with our money. And sometimes they're not. Sometimes there's like, damn, this month was really freaking hard. And like I didn't hit my goals. Right. And that's okay. It just gives people a space to actually like sit down and look at their finances. Cause so often it's so easy to procrastinate. And I don't know about you, but I'm the first person to be like, I'll start tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll even my laundry, right? Like I don't want to fold my laundry. I'm going to do it tomorrow. And it gets put off for like 3 weeks and I just pull it out of the laundry basket to wear it. So
mm-hmm,
Yeah,
mm-hmm,
I think it's really easy for people to procrastinate or put things to the side because it's scary, right? Like looking at how much debt you have or looking at your bank account and knowing it's like dwindling and not going in the right direction. It's the same thing as not getting on the scale because you already know, oh, I'm gaining weight. I don't want to see like what's actually happening. Or I've had women tell me like they didn't want to track because they're ashamed. They knew they like ate a ton of crap throughout the day and they're just like, I don't want to see what I did. It's they go so hand in hand, but the more you ignore it, the worse it's going to get.
mm, yeah. I think a lot of the times as well, it goes back to just the fear and just like not knowing like what the next step should be. I mean, like in high school or college, you don't learn about like financial literacy, and that's really important. And so what, if we were looking at where somebody should start, like at this most basic level of where they can kind of jump into the conversation of being more financially literate, what would that look like? Because again, it can feel really overwhelming, and that can cause people to just avoid it. And so what's a really easy way for someone to get into the conversation?
I'm gonna give you
Yeah.
2 points because I think it, as much as I want to like go towards like the numbers and like what you can practically and tactically to do, I think the goal setting is such a huge piece of that. Like, what is the bigger why? Like,
Mm,
why is it important to you? Like, do you want to vacation more? Are you looking to buy a house? Do you want to retire early? Are you looking to start a business? Like, coming up with something that's going to give you that bigger motivation is so, so important. I've talked to so many people, they're like, I just want to get good with my money. And I'm like, but why? Like,
mm,
Mhm.
I mean, if there is no why, there's no reason to budget or save or invest or do the bigger things, right? If you can't kind of attach to that goal and that bigger vision. But I think it's so simple, and I talk to so many people about it. It's like the foundation is just your budget, and like really understanding and getting clarity on cash flow. And so many people are averse to the word budget.
mm.
So it's like, if you don't like budgeting because it feels restrictive or it feels like you can't spend money, like switching it to something else like cash flow or your spending plan or your saving plan, but just like understanding, like, all right, what is going on in my bank account day to day, month to month is just
Mhm.
so, so important to the bigger financial planning picture. Because I can't help you save if you're living paycheck to paycheck, right? Like I can't help you invest if like there's no money left over or we're trying to like pay off debt. So I think that's usually the starting point that people actually really have a hard time sitting down and doing that. And so many people are also like afraid that they're going to get it wrong,
Mm.
like stuck in that perfectionist mode of like, well, it has to be perfect the very first time I do it. I'm like, nope, it gets to be sloppy and it's not going to be exact, and we'll just edit and observe over the next couple months and see what we need to do.
Yeah. Wow. This is like literally, I know Maddie's probably thinking this, but it ties so much to the work that we do, because oftentimes you're not going to get it right on the first go around. And your why needs to be so grounded, or else it doesn't matter. And I love the fact that you care about that first versus how can I make myself look good, right? Like I want to make sure you're getting results. So like I got to make myself look good. But you're like, no, let's look introspectively and like why do you actually want to achieve these goals? That's such a feminine thing that you can like bring to the financial conversation, because it is a really masculine conversation.
Yeah. The piece that I love though is actually studies have been done that women advisors and women investors actually outperform men in every situation.
Love
So
it.
I mean, there are
even though we
studies.
bring that like maternal instinct of like, well, let
Yeah.
me take care of your finances, like I'm also going to outperform men anyways. So you should just use a female advisor.
I love that. Our mentor, I can't remember like where she found this study from, but it was saying that women with money and like wealth tend to, I don't know like what the number was, but we do more impactful things with our money. And that's why she loves helping coaches become more successful, because we're going to do more with that to help people. I mean, men, which we know kind of tend to not do that as much, but we do that more. So that is a very cool thing. Kind of all goes hand in hand. I mean, there were like so many things I wanted to add on to the list. We were kind of talking about asking you, one of them being about Dave Ramsey, because your sister, Lindsay, introduced me to Dave Ramsey. But I bring that up because how many years ago was it? Over the pandemic, I paid off my student loan debt in a year, and about, I think it was a year, it was $38,000. And that was kind of like my biggest jump into like understanding money a little bit better and, coming out of debt. And I know you said you also had like a pretty big journey, like paying off your debt. Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, so I think it's actually really cool that you guys are like opening up this space to talk about money, and even just being transparent with numbers sometimes is really hard for people to do. And like even some of my closest friends, like they have a hard time like sharing their salary with me or sharing what they have in savings, right? It's such a taboo topic. And that was kind of the space I was in almost 12 and a half, 13 years ago. Um, I was I was in debt, my husband was in debt, we were planning a wedding, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, combined, we have almost $90,000 worth of debt and nowhere to turn to, or like no advice. Like even financial advisors were like, just pay off your debt. And I was like, yeah, but how? Like
That's
Mhm.
really helpful advice. Thank
that
you.
sounds so easy. Or they'd be like, yeah, just set up a Roth IRA and put $100 in that and then come back to me when your debt is paid off. Right. And I was like, that's where I was like, okay, what? And luckily enough, I did find Dave Ramsey, which he's a great one size fits all option to like get started. And
Mhm.
after being in that world for a little bit, and we did pay off the $90,000 by getting on a budget, like writing down what we spent every month, figuring out how to pay off the debt. I also realized, like being in the financial world too, that it's not one size fits all. And like
Mhm.
there are options outside of like just go ham and pay off all your debt. Like I think
Mhm.
looking back on it, there are things that instead of just being like, all right, we're going to take every single penny we make and put it towards debt, like there could have been options to refinance some of our debt, and there could have been options to invest and save while we were paying off our debt. And there could have been an option to buy a house at that time instead of just going all in and being like, well, I can't do anything until my debt's paid off. And that's, I
Mhm.
think, debt paralyzes a lot of people.
Hmm.
And it just feels like a conversation we don't have the space to talk about. And there's a lot of shame and there's a lot of guilt, and you feel like you're going to be judged by saying anything. Um, but I think that's the cool part when I talk to people. It's like, nope, like let's figure out a plan, let's get on a plan, let's make it happen. Like it's possible.
Mhm.
It's getting them to start to see the light at the end of the tunnel as well. That helps just create that peace of mind overall. It's like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm not going to be stuck in student loan forever. It's
Yep.
just part of my journey and part of my life. And I made that decision to go to school and get educated. So
Yeah. The shame conversation around debt is like so huge because I feel like a lot of people, they just put this pressure on themselves to like never be in debt. And it's just this like horrible thing. But the reality of it is it's not the worst case scenario, right? Like it's going to happen. And sometimes, emergencies come up and that's just a part of life. But having a more empowered conversation of like, yes, debt happens, but it's not the end of the conversation. You can create a plan to get yourself out of it without feeling like you don't have a life, right? Because all you're doing is just putting that money back into like paying off that debt. But there has to be a way to do it simultaneously, like still living your life. Maybe you are on a budget, but that doesn't mean that you can't still do things and enjoy yourself, right? Like it doesn't have to be this painful thing. So as far as like budgets go, how do you help people set that up? Because again, like you said, people do not like the word budget.
yep.
Um, with the work that Maddy and I do, people don't sometimes like tracking their food. They feel like that is going to be really restrictive. And our job is to teach them to say it's not restrictive. It's actually opening your eyes to what you're consuming or maybe what's missing in your diet. And so, how do you help your clients come into understanding that the word budget isn't like a dirty word? It's not a bad word. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think it relates so much to the food conversation because it is kind of like there are going to be people that need to have that accountability, right? And
Hmm.
track and see it and be in it. And because they've never built the habits before, right? So it's like maybe somebody that's coming in that's never eaten a whole food diet or like eaten real food or like they need to be aware that the Doritos that they're eating or like how their macros are adding into their diet, right? So it's like, I want you to pay attention to it and watch your proteins, and versus someone that maybe is a little bit further along in their journey and they're like, yeah, I understand, but like now I really want to dial in. So maybe I don't need to like focus specifically on every single thing I'm putting in my mouth. I just need to be more mindful of protein or so. And I think that's the piece with budgeting. Like people are going to be at different phases of their journey, but my goal is to make it something that feels sustainable long term. So it's like, hey, we might not be tracking every single week or every single month like this forever, but we need to set up the structure so that you can build the habit so that when you go to the grocery store, you know your like range is 250 to 300. And if you go over that, like you just know that you're a little bit over this month, right? Versus like, I just need to go to the grocery store and only spend $50, right? Like they're going to be at different phases of that journey. So I think I always make people use an app because I've had so many people that start off with pen and paper. They like Excel. And I'm like, it's not sustainable. You're not going to be doing that for the rest of your life. Like it might work for 3 or 4 months, but like, let's get something on the back end that's going to connect to your accounts and that's going to do it for you automatically. So you just have to go in and look at it for 5 to 10 minutes a month, and correct things and change it. So that's kind of where it's like still, I think with apps, like people need to feel comfortable and have someone help them drive and learn how to operate it for them. So that's a lot of what I'm doing with them is like, let's look at it together. Like I'm going to have you go in and drive and I'm going to show you what you're looking at. And then like, we'll evaluate from there.
Yeah.
What apps do you recommend? Oh, sorry.
Our brains were like,
Yep. I'm like, what is it?
So I was a Mint and an Every Dollar girl at first. Mint was a little more automatic. Every Dollar is for my usually like people that are like tend to be high spenders or like big shoppers. I'm like, you need to go in and be like actively engaged in what's coming through on your accounts. But I actually just almost been a year I've been using Monarch. It actually it's an advisor app, but you can get it as an individual as well. And you can link all your accounts and you can customize it. And like there's emojis that make it feel like you can like actually like see it in like real, like, okay, there's a travel budget and there's a palm tree sitting there, right? Like it makes your brain engage with it because money is also not visual. It's like in this digital bubble especially with credit cards and loans and everything's in this just like virtual world and it doesn't actually have that touch and feel to it.
Right. Yeah.
Some of these apps make it actually feel like a little more like, oh, there's my money and here's all the accounts and I can see what's going on and how it's moving.
Oh, I love that. I think it's so helpful for, especially in the age that we live in, to have apps like this because you're exactly right. You could do pen and paper, you could do an Excel spreadsheet, but eventually you're going to stop doing it. Like it's just too tedious. And having an option that actually makes sense. People are on their phones. You can link accounts, like making it easy. And I like the word they use, sustainable, so that they can actually keep following through with it. And it doesn't become just like something they pick up and then you're in a good place. Like, oh, my money's looking good. And then all of a sudden you're like, shit, now things are bad again. Like you want to avoid that. So I really like that. And we'll put the app name in the show notes for you guys. So if you want to check them out,
Yeah.
you probably should. We
Monarch has this cool like widget. So I don't know if we'll do
Yeah, we do video.
Okay, cool. But it has this cool like widget app where like you can see, I'll show you like all the transactions. So it'll give you like the last 10 transactions. And I have that on my phone and it's like I'm looking at it daily. It's like, oh yeah, like that Apple subscription, what was that? Right? Like so many times there's going through that you're not even aware of. And that's where I think there's so much money getting lost because it's just slipping through the cracks. Like there's holes in the boat and we need to find a way to plug it. And just being aware and in your money is so important and valuable to that. So you can actually just pay attention to it.
Totally.
Now, I will say I am an Excel spreadsheet person. And very like I fine tooth comb it, but that would save me time. using that app. Like, to
Yeah.
me, that seems like easier. So I'm probably gonna switch to that because I was looking at making a new one, like just adjusting it. But I think optimizing time, even if you are someone that is good with a spreadsheet, like I'm all for optimizing time. So I'll definitely look at that.
Right.
Yeah, because even if
Automated
it's
money.
like you're good at it, shit still hits the fan, and you're like, maybe you're getting overwhelmed with something and you have less time than you used to. And sometimes just being able to see the information right in front of you keeps it so that you're not stressing about it. You're not anxious about it. You're very aware of what's going on. And I was listening to this podcast. It's like totally unrelated, but I was listening to this podcast and one of the co-hosts was like, "Oh yeah, I get so much anxiety. Like I can't check my bank account. Like I just get too stressed out about that." And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, my goodness. Yes, you are stressed about it, but like, what the hell? You gotta go in and look and make sure you're getting paid or you're not, you don't have a subscription you forget about and you're not using like Netflix, Hulu, whatever. Like, are you being informed? And when, what is your advice if people like his name is Oscar, Just Trish podcast. I'm always talking about it. What would you say to somebody that's like, I get stressed out about looking at my bank account?
So I think that goes back to probably a deeper question that's not even related to numbers at all. And I have a couple of clients right now, their net worth is very high. They still get stressed and anxious about looking at their bank accounts. They get stressed about money. They get stressed about income. There is something on a deeper level that's causing that stress and that anxiety. Um, and I think that's where sometimes that phrase, more money, more problems comes into play, right? Like
Yeah.
the more money you have, sometimes the more cycling through your bank accounts and you get stressed out looking about it, or even thinking that there's not enough, or how are you going to afford retirement?
Mm.
Or my income just jumped and now I need more savings. Like there's a lot of things that are going on. And I've done a lot of work in this area too, because that's what I was finding is like the numbers make sense. Like, why is everybody still stressed about money? And it was on a deeper level where you're almost now doing like financial therapy and coaching on that side, where it's like, what are childhood traumas that happened? Or
Mhm.
what are you telling yourself about every time you log into your bank account? Or, like, those are bigger, deeper issues that we have to kind of address, because more money in your bank account is not going to solve that feeling of stress or anxiety. It's
Mm.
probably just going to accentuate it to be even
Yeah.
more, right? Like, I think there's a lot of issues with like scarcity and abundance right now on both levels. Like,
Yeah.
people are nervous to not have anything, and they're also nervous to have everything too, right? So what's
Hmm.
going on in your head that's making you have those conversations?
Yeah.
It's always a bigger bigger conversation, right? Like
Yeah.
doing the work deeper down to figure out what that is.
I know Maddie's gonna probably have the same sentiment. I love that you actually have this awareness around like the conversation. Like it goes back, like it's not just what's at the surface. It is so deeper. Maddie, do you have thoughts around that? Because I feel like our brains, like, we're just
Oh,
connected on that one.
we're synced right now.
Yes.
No, it's so true. I mean, you have to think like what, and I have worked on this myself, is what were you shown or maybe not shown about money as a child? Did you grow up in a household where money was talked about, but it was talked about in a way that was negative because you didn't have much money?
Hmm.
Or was it like just kind of used money to fix an issue, right? Like, if you grew up, let's say I've heard of like families, let's say divorced parents, and your dad bought your love with money or with things, right? So there's so many things, and it is scary how identical this money conversation is to health, because women can have that same convoluted negative relationship with money and checking their bank account, like with the scale. Like,
Yep.
their worth is tied to the scale. People's worth are tied to how much money they have or what they've lost or whatever it is. Like, there was a guy on a podcast I was listening to, and he was a gambling addict and he had lost like $89,000 in one of his games gambling, but then he won like 200,000. But he was hyper fixating on the 89,000 that he lost.
Mm.
Right? It's the same thing, like, if you have a poor relationship with your body, you're gonna have a poor relationship with the scale, and you're gonna worry about that just like with money. So it's very interesting, like, you have to go into the deeper why, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you found this, Jen, where you have clients that have those roadblocks and refuse to go down them, and you're only able to help them so much.
Yeah. I think it is one of those questions of like, are you willing to have me ask you these questions, or do you want to
Mhm.
really just focus on the surface level? And
Oof.
I do, I'm lucky that I have a group of clients who are very self-aware and are like love the personal development space. So they're like, okay, like let's actually figure out why I'm so averse to not using this credit card anymore, or like why I can't figure out how to save money, or why I keep ending up in this cycle where I know I
Mm.
can't spend money on shopping this month, but somehow I just keep putting it on the credit
I
card.
do it anyways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. This is such a good I'm loving this. It, makes me think like when Maddie, was talking about childhood and all that, my sister and I grew up where like money was just always being spent because my mom grew up very, very poor, and same with my dad. And they have both worked their asses off. My dad has a successful business. My mom is like one of the hardest workers that I know, but she kind of went one way and her brothers went another way, where they're a little bit more frugal and watch the budget. And she wants to spend whatever because she's like, I've worked hard for this. I'm going to give myself what I want and the things that I deserve. And so, unfortunately, that came down to me where I like really had a problem with spend like money management. Cause like we would go to a Target on a given Wednesday. My mom would drop like $400 or $500 on like stuff I mean, probably didn't necessarily need. And so me and one of my good friends were having a conversation about this. It took me a while to figure out like, fuck, I can't just be spending money on whatever I want. I actually need to take a look and put myself in a really good position because I don't want to end up in a position where I'm like bleeding money and not being aware of it. And so I used to get really stressed out about the money conversation because I'm like, I got a lot of holes in the boat. Like I gotta plug some shit up. And I think once I got out of college, it was like that turning point where like, okay, you actually need to start being accountable because like you're no longer like just a student. You're like being in the world and you need to be, accountable for the decisions that you're making. So it is so it's really interesting again the way that you as an individual, you show up with your finances or your health or in relationships all across the board based on what you've experienced in your childhood. And the fact that you do have clients that are willing to explore these things, I'm sure that just for you it makes it such a rewarding experience because you're seeing them kind of like have these major breakthroughs and then you can actually do really awesome work with them.
Yeah, and it's not like we're constantly revisiting something. We're like, all right, on to the next like
Oh,
thing. We
yeah.
get to now build off of that, right? And it opens up room for opportunities to like do more again, like you said, like do more things with our money and have more space to actually have real conversations instead of just have it like revisiting the same conversation over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really eye-opening to look at everybody's experience of like you could have the same childhood or upbringing as like siblings and things like that, but two totally different lived experiences of like what you
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
Um, my sister and I talk about this all the time because I feel like when we were growing up, I was like, we were dirt poor. Like dirt poor. Like I felt like we couldn't buy anything. Every time I asked for something, mom and dad said no. I just remember mom stressing about money all the time. And then you look at her and she's like, I don't, I thought we were like really well off and like
I could see her saying
I
that.
got everything that I want. Like we just have two different personalities and two
Yep.
completely different lived experiences, even though we were in the same exact household. So it's
Yep.
just how your like subconscious brain is digesting what's going on around you from every experience that you're encountering.
Totally. And are you the older sibling?
I am the older sibling, yeah.
I
By
feel
how many
like,
years?
By 4. So there's 4 years
okay.
between each one of my siblings. And my brother is like, I mean, he's a baller. He's like, I got everything I want. Like, it's just also it was like different phases of my parents' financial journey as well, right? Like
Yes.
they were making a lot less when I was born to when she was born. And then like different things happen so that there were different experiences.
Mhm.
Totally. Totally. That was kind of my where my brain was going because yes, you're existing in the same household, but it depends on, where your parents' financials were at the time and just as a younger sibling with the older sibling dynamic, like I'm 3 years younger than my sister, but I'm definitely the oldest child. Like, let's just keep it real. I saw things very different than like how she did. And it is just really interesting to what you pick up on and like the energy that you're noticing and just things like that. Yeah, I think that's so interesting. I'm like, I know I already said this, but I am like really enjoying this conversation because there are just so many parallels to the work that Maddie and I do. And I can just see why you would be so passionate about this.
Yeah, I'm hoping that in the future, I think with like the like money coaches and a lot of the financial bloggers that are out in the world now, like there's going to be so much more financial transparency that comes through in the industry because it's so hard, right? Like we see wealth on the outside by like what cars people drive or like the designer clothes that they're wearing, and it is actually not a full representation of like money and finances in general because it could be put on credit cards. They could have like a crap load of debt. Like we don't know if their parents are supporting them. We don't know if
Yep.
they got and inherit it. Like there's just so many moving parts that we don't show. And it's like that tip of the iceberg, right? Like, here's what you see on the outside, and it all looks great, but there's so much more underneath it that actually is like the story behind money and finances.
Yeah.
And
It makes me think my sister she travels like all over Southeast Asia. She's lived there for several years. Peace and love, fucking terrible with money. So bad. And she is always paying off credit card debt. Like always. Like she paid it down and then it went back up. Paid it down, went back up. And I'm like, girl, like you should also put money into your savings account because like shit could happen. Anyway, she sends me this TikTok and it was like, people think I'm like so bougie and living my best life and traveling everywhere. And little do they know, I am in mountains of credit card debt. And I'm like, if you're laughing at that, like, but like that's your reality, right? And she's like, I can't talk about it. So it's crazy how the perception we have of people like Instagram is the highlight reel. We don't look at people's debt or credit score or different things like that on Instagram. We're just like
Mhm.
potentially envious of the things they're buying or the life they're living.
right. I think there's so many times where, I mean, I live in Boston, which is a very high cost of living area.
That's so funny. I'm from there.
Oh,
I
fun.
did not know that. That's funny.
What area of Boston are you from?
I grew up in West Roxbury.
Oh, nice. You're like downtown Boston. Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So we live in Newton, which is a really high,
Lovely. Yeah.
like lovely area to live in, but it's also very expensive. And I think so often, like there are times when I'm like, how do they do that? Like they have to be making what to be able to afford, like, right? Like I think it's just so hard to not compare yourself to
Yeah.
people's lives. And with Instagram right now, again, like you guys see it too on like you can pose one way on Instagram and then all of a
Yep.
sudden you can have the belly if you don't suck in. And it's the same exact thing with finances. It's like
Yeah.
you can see
Mhm.
the beautiful trip to Bali, but you're not seeing the $10,000 they just put on their credit card to do that.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's like one of the things for me. Like I am not a car person. I I see a car for me to get me from A to B. And like as long as it's like just feels clean and isn't like It hasn't been in a
Safe.
tear. Yeah, it feels safe. Like I'm happy. Like I bought my car. I'm really proud of it with cash. Like maybe 5 to 7 years ago for $4,000 with cash. He was like 5, and I'm like, if I gave you cash, would you take 1,000 off? He's like, sure. I was like, sweet. Like that makes me feel very secure because there's no car payment. There's no nothing with that. It's a good car. So for some people, it's like they need to have, and this is not hating on you, Allie, at all, because you've you have a card payment. But for some people, they would rather have that. It's just like a value thing. And I was thinking about this earlier when we were talking, and I brought up Dave Ramsey, and I'm in one of the Facebook Dave Ramsey groups. I just like to see kind of like what people are doing. And one thing I noticed when it comes to like fixating on your debt and paying things off and getting out of debt is people's health gets put such to the side. I'm
Mm,
like, you do realize, and I don't know, you may know this, but you may not, Jen, but I was really sick. Like I could not walk. I was very very suicidal because I was so sick, and it wouldn't have mattered how much money I had. I could not do anything with that. And I always think about that. Like one of my pillars of like being financially healthy is like having my health. Because at the end of the day, like you can be a millionaire, you could die tomorrow because you've pushed yourself into the ground to become like said millionaire. So I think that's something. I don't know if you see that with any of your clients or people that have, slid into your DMs. Like health for me is such a big component of being financially healthy because it doesn't matter how much money I have if I'm dead.
mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think health is one of my biggest pillars in my budget. And I think that's something I always say, I'm like, show me your budget and I'll show you your priorities, right? Like,
Mm,
and I think like I have a non-negotiable in my budget of like, I'm going to spend what I want on my food because we cured my husband's Crohn's disease with food. And that was like one of the things where I was
Whoa.
like money can support you to do really cool things and it's okay to spend money. And that's a whole
yeah.
topic too of like people don't know how to spend money. So they either go to one
Mhm.
extreme of like YOLO or they hoard it, right? Like there's
Yeah.
balance. So a lot of it is finding that balance in between too, which you guys could relate to as well. Like it's okay to have a martini and it's also important to be eating the apple, right? Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
to have that balance too. And it's either one extreme or the other usually with money, but living your life is so important on this journey as well. So
Mm,
yes, I want you to hit your savings goals, and yes, I want you to retire and be able to continue to live your lifestyle, but I also want you to feel like you have enough money to just live today and do the things you want to do. So
right.
let's actually figure out what your priorities are, and if it's health, then I don't care if you spend 50% of your budget on that. Like, go for it. Like, if that's what's going to
Mhm.
make you happy and make you thrive and survive, where you don't, it's not like the Sunday scaries or things like that. Like,
Yeah.
just live your
Mhm.
life and be like, all right, like I could do this until I'm 85 or 90, right?
Yeah.
That's more important than being like, all right, I'm just going to work my 40 years and then I'll figure out how to get healthy at 65.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of my core things is that I never want to have to say no about something with my health. Um,
Yeah.
when I was sick, I spent just in 2023 $16,000 on, and this none of it was covered by insurance. It was all outside things, and I'm still spent not as much now because we don't, we kind of figured out what was going on, all those things, but I never want to be in a position where I have to say no because of, my
Mm-hmm.
poor budgeting or poor anything. Like I always want to say yes when it comes to like personal growth, health, any of those things because that's important to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's so to talk about priorities is huge because the work that Maddie and I do, the work that you do, people will say they don't have money, but they do. They just are not prioritizing things. And, I was talking to Maddie the other day. I was like, someone doesn't have X amount of money for my membership, but I see them on a vacation with a drink in their hand. And it's none of my
Mhm.
business how you spend your money. None of my business. It's just a very interesting moment to see somebody and how they prioritize things. They're going to complain, I want to lose weight, I want to feel better, my nutrition sucks, but they're not doing anything about it because it's not at a level of a priority where they're focusing in on it. And I like how you're not coming off with like you need to stay in this strict budgeting. You can't do outside things because you're right. You should be able to spend money on things that are important, have the priorities, but like also say like you can do both. They both exist in the same conversation. Um, and that makes this conversation easier for people to get into versus feeling like I'm going to have to change my whole life and the way that I spend money and the way that I do. Like that is not an approach where a lot of people are like, okay, sign me up because it's too much.
Yeah, I like small tweaks. Baby
Yeah.
steps are easier. It's something that you can actually get used to and build the habit. And I think with money, it takes a little bit longer than traditional, like what, like even exercise, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to be doing it like 3 to 5 times a week. So it becomes easier to just build into your routine.
Yeah.
Money, money touches everything every day, but the times that we need to look at it are probably like 1 to 2 times a month. So it's going to take so much longer to actually build that habit and the muscle of wanting to check your bank account and wanting to look at your budget and feeling excited to do it. So small steps help make bigger progress long term.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Maddie, do you have the other questions you wanted to hit on?
Yeah, since we were talking about just like having wealth and some of your clients that have a high portfolio, but they don't like feel like they have a high portfolio or they're not secure with it. Like what do you think makes someone, we kind of touched on this already, but makes someone, I guess, feel financially wealthy or, steps they've taken to maybe have a more like secure attachment with it or just creating it in general?
Yeah, so I think one of the, again, practical things is looking at the budget to be able to say, like, somebody that spends $50,000 a year, but and has a $2 million portfolio, like they are financially secure. And like looking at that piece of it versus someone that makes $1 million a year, spends $1 million a year, but only has $1 million in the bank account. Like it's a
Mhm.
different kind of security. So it's like getting people to understand, like, all right, what do you spend every year? Like, what are some like things that like we can look at? Like, what do you need your net worth to be at in order to
Mhm.
feel safe and secure? And I think just crunching the numbers sometimes and seeing it. And the beautiful thing about finances is compound interest is like a magic wand in the
Mhm.
world of just investing and being able to have your money make more money. So it's like giving people that, again, visual of what they can do to like, hey, start saving $1,000 a month. Doesn't feel like a lot right now, but in 20 years, like it'll get us to the point where we need to be. So I think sometimes having the conversation around like, hey, what does your lifestyle look like? What do you want your lifestyle to look like? Are there changes you would make, right? Like, are there health habits that you would want to add in to live a better lifestyle, or you want to go on vacation? Like, tell me what your dream lifestyle looks like. And then how do we build a financial plan around that so that you can do that forever and not have to worry? Helps people's kind of nervous system calm down a little bit too.
Mhm. That do you think becoming like I feel like I don't know if it's like a, a specific age of like bro finance people, but like it's all about like becoming a millionaire. Do you think that's like kind of an overrated statement because it's more of like your what you want your lifestyle to be?
Yes. I think 20 years ago, like $1 million went a lot further than it does today too. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's just being able to figure out what you can live off of to make that lifestyle feel
Mhm.
sustainable.
Yeah, it's not so much like you have to make a certain amount to fit into a club. It just needs to fit your lifestyle.
Yeah.
I like that.
I
I think
had to
that
pee really bad. I'm sorry.
it's okay. I
I
figured I'm like she dashed
I
off
was trying
somewhere.
I was trying to hold it. I was like, I might pee my pants right now. Yeah, the question about the like you and I were kind of talking, Maddie, about like the millionaire kind of like status and questions. And I kind of just missed what you said. What was your question?
I just asked her about I'm already forgetting what it was. Like, it's becoming a millionaire, overrated because it's
Yeah.
more what she answered, it was more about, like, what do you want your lifestyle to be, and we'll worry
Yeah,
about that.
totally. Because I do think it is just like so trendy right now to talk about like making your $1 million and doing this. And if you save this amount a day, then you'll make this amount of money. And I mean, like you said, $1 million doesn't go as far as it used to. And so just looking at like what you want your life to look like and what maybe you're willing to do to make that happen or what you're not willing to do. It goes back to like the priorities conversation.
Yeah, I think it's just like $1 million year, $1 million portfolio. It's just like a
Mhm.
buzzword that feels
Yeah.
good, but it's just an arbitrary number that's kind of like been put out there of like $1 million,
Mhm.
great, but like, do
Yeah.
you really need $1 million or do you need half a million
Mhm.
dollars or maybe you need $5 million? Like, totally depends on what you want your life to look like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
think it
true.
also I think it also has to do with the circles that we're in. Like,
Mm,
we I try not to follow, like, a ton of, like, health coaches in general because it just muddies up my brain. But,
yeah.
like, I get fed, oh my god, the amount of DMs I get from coaches, business coaches that are like, "Hey, girly, wanna make your first." I think that's just, like, the algorithm that you're in, right?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to lose weight, you're gonna get a crap ton of, like, algorithms that are focused on losing weight? So I think it just ends up being, like, I get fed a lot, like, business coaches that, like, wanna make your first million? So I think it's also just part of that, why we see that a lot.
Yeah. And it does kind of go back to like any of the health buzzwords that like we are not impacted by like we have this awareness to be like, oh my god, like eye roll, like it's just like trendy right now. But I think it is also just like so interesting because like even if in the health space, we might not start to feel that like moment of like, oh shit, like, should I be doing this? But like in the financial world, we might be like, oh, I don't know as much. Like, should I be doing this? Like, am I doing things wrong? And that's where having like somebody like yourself being a coach and not just an advisor is really like a new vertical. Like, I don't think I've ever had like a type of conversation with somebody like in finances in this way that has been somebody that wants to coach versus just telling somebody what to do. And that makes all the difference.
Yeah, I'm usually feeding off of what my clients are saying. So it's like, I now want to retire in 20 years. And like, all right, let's go like back in and like see if that works and see what we have to hit. Or like, I don't want to tell someone like, okay, we have to be putting $1,000 away a month. I want you to kind of tell me what you want and then I'll help you get there.
Mm, yeah.
I like that. What is one thing this kind of popped into my head? It was from another podcast, I'm forgetting what the name is, but they always talk about, like, something like a kind of like a guilty pleasure they like to spend money on. They don't really it's, like, not a necessity. Are there any things that, like, are not a necessity for you, but you love to spend money on it?
Well, I've already given you my health and wellness. That budget is probably triple or quadruple what normal people spend on their
Probably
health
not us.
and
Yeah.
wellness. Well, yeah, when you said you spent $16,000 in one year on your health, I was like, sounds about, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I do love to, we love to travel. I usually like to be a little bit bougier when I travel, which is always like the fun part of that. It was interesting kind of what you say. Like, I think the standard, like some people are like, oh, like if you make, I saw it was the other day. It was like, if you make $250,000, you can spend $6,000 a month on your home or your mortgage payment. And I was like, that's such a stupid way to look at it because like, what if I don't prioritize my home? Like, what if I like to be
Mm,
traveling or what if I like to be
Mm-hmm.
giving me this just like flat number of what I should be spending on my like home actually feels icky and like I'm like, ew, like I don't want to be spending that much on my like mortgage payment. I want to be spending that on travel every month or I want to be
Mm.
spending that on something completely different. So I think the things that I don't love spending on, like I don't love spending money on clothes. I'm not like a
Mhm.
designer girly. Like I love my Amazon dupes. I'll go buy those every single day. I don't feel bad when the dog slobbers on them. I can toss them. Like, so those are kind of things where I think everybody's gonna have like different things that they love to spend money on, but
Yeah.
I've started to figure out what I do like to spend money on and what I don't.
Mhm.
And that's kind of helpful, right? Like, so you can,
Yeah.
because maybe some people, I think if they're trying to find themselves or like fit in or just trying to keep up with the Joneses, if you will, they just start spending money on things that like they don't really care about, but they're like, I should have this. Why don't I? And that's like can be a dangerous game, just like that insane comparison. Maddie, I'm gonna flip the question on you. What do
Mm.
you guilty pleasure like to spend money on? And what do you hate spending money on?
I think, like, facials and, like, a good massage, like,
Mm.
oh, that's what I'm gifting myself for my birthday is maybe a lymphatic drainage massage or just, like, a really good, like, get in there with your elbow type massage and a facial, so I love spending money on that. Hate, hate, oh, bad food, like, when you go out to dinner, like, and you're just like, "That was not worth the money or the calories," like, bad
Mm.
food, bad experience, hate, 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 hate. And
Hmm.
you?
Um, I guess like don't enjoy spending money on like house stuff that I can't see. Like we bought our house in January and we had to get more insulation blown in and then we have to pay for the propane and just like different stuff, which of course you need to do, right? That's a part of being a homeowner, but it's like you don't even see it. So it's like ugh, this is frustrating. Like I like to spend money on things that I can appreciate and use and take care of. And so I guess my like guilty pleasure, what I will always spend money on is like my health, like gym membership, all that sort of stuff, coaching. And then like beauty stuff, like hair, like I don't put limits on like that sort of stuff. I'm not gonna cut my budget and be like, oh, I can't get my hair done because I'm trying to save money. Like I would pick it somewhere else. Like, okay, we're just not gonna go out to dinner this week or next week, right? Like I'm gonna adjust it so that I can like pamper myself. Like it's more of just like self-care
Mhm.
things that I'm gonna feel good about because I'm not like super materialistic either. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really
Where
care.
I agree. Where does, sugar-free Red Bull land?
That is self-care. That is self-care. I
She's
it's
addicted.
it's my toxic trait and but I always am smart about it because at the gas station that I it's like right across from my gym, I'll like walk to the gas station, get a Red Bull, and the lady will be like, "Oh, it's like 3 for 4," or yeah, 3 for 4. And I'll be like, "Oh, great. I'm saving money," because like it is like almost $4 for a can of Red Bull. Like it's in this economy, it's insane. So if I'm getting one for like, essentially free, I'm getting it. And I do limit myself because
It's cheaper than a coffee at Starbucks.
you
So
know what? And that's where we vibe because like I'm also not going to be the type of person that is, I'm not going to put myself in a position where I can't like enjoy the little luxuries. Like if I want a coffee, like a nice coffee, I'm going to go get it or like a pastry or what have you. So it's about again like just being responsible and knowing where your money is going so that you don't have to feel restricted. Same again, going back to nutrition. You don't have to in order to like lose weight, you don't have to live in this restricted bubble. You just have to know where the calories are being spent and just being informed. And then that way, you, the individual, is so empowered in the decision making and you're in control versus the food being in control or the money being in control.
yeah, I playing off of that, I think I like with a lot of clients making sure that we automate a lot of things in life. So it just happens, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if we look at their overall cash flow and spending what they make and say, hey, we want to save 10% every month. we automate it. We set it up so that it gets taken out of their account and it's just dropped in there. Kind of like food, right? Like we make sure that, we have 3 eggs in the morning and that just becomes a routine or whatever it is to hit some protein goals, right? Like it just becomes something that's like, all right, it's set, it's forget, and you just do it automatically without having to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So much, like everything else, so much easier, right? Like we're setting up investing accounts so we can do that. Like, it's just like, all right, now that we know that all those are set and we hit those goals, then you just get to live your life and do the day-to-day stuff and have fun with it and then adjust as needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
I like that.
true.
I like that.
Before we like just continue yapping forever, because we are notorious for that, where can our listeners find you and what kind of you talked about coaching, like I guess what services do you do or that coaching looks like?
Yeah. So you can find me at Finances with Jen. I changed my Instagram handle. So it's money related. It's all just kind of inspiration and kind of just goes back to that, like, remember that like money and finances are emotional and it's okay. And it's like, enjoy life. Like it's okay to spend. So it's a lot of inspiration and just thoughts around money. Nothing too complex or bro finance related on that page at all. But I work with clients one-on-one. So I have private clients. I only take about 60 clients at any given time. So um, I just have a few spots left on my one-on-one coaching, which is kind of cool, like to get to a point where I'm like, hey, like I got all my one-on-one clients. Um, and I now opened up a group coaching program, which is more like budgeting focused and just accountability, which is really, really cool. It's just open office hours, but it's a space to kind of come in and do the same thing of like, hey, I just started Monarch and I literally have no clue what I'm doing, right? Like, can you walk me through it? And just getting into a groove with budgeting. And I think that's kind of the foundation of everything. So that group has been really awesome to just see people start to love budgeting like I do, because I think it's something you do grow into of like, oh yeah, I know exactly where I can spend my money and I like looking at it and I like being in touch with it. So and then yeah, I think email is always easy too. Website is baseplanning.co. So I always offer like one-on-one discovery calls with people too if they have like personal questions and they're not ready to maybe talk to a financial advisor or work with me one-on-one. So that's always a good space too to just book a half hour and have someone listen to you, have a safe space to talk about money.
That's awesome. We'll put all of that below. So if you guys have questions, you want to reach out, you want to learn a little bit more about Jen. Maddy, do you have any closing thoughts or questions?
No, this was amazing. I feel like I have more questions now. I'm like, we'll have to do a part two.
Okay, so we will get everything in the show notes for you. Guys, reach out to Jen if you have questions. Follow her. Let us know your thoughts on this episode. I know I'm walking away learning new things, feeling empowered. And that is always our hope when bringing on, guests like yourself. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise and letting us pick your brain.
Absolutely great to be here, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Hold on.
Thank you guys so much for listening or watching the Kind of Hot, Kind of Healthy. Please make sure to subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and share this on your socials. Share this to your girlfriend who is in debt, who wants to get out of debt, who wants to manage their money. She needs to hear this. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere where you can stream podcasts. If you have a burning question about life, friendships, health, and 1 or 2 cents, email us at kindahotpod@gmail.com. That's KINDAHOTPOD@gmail.com. Bye.
Bye.